Once again, to start from the beginning, I'm Richard from Incubite. On behalf of Incubite, I welcome you all to the Software Craftspeople India community. Software Craftspeople India community, also known as the SCI, is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to connecting individuals with a software craftsmanship mindset. Our mission is to foster a community where members can improve their skills and get better at their software craft. We organize different talks, roundtables, workshops that are aimed solely at enhancing the craft of their software development. Throughout the year, we invite several industry experts to share their insights and expertise with our community. Incubite is the founder and also the sponsor of this community. We are a company focused on delivering well-crafted software solutions. So, a bit about today's speaker, we have Ari Kaplan, the head of technical evangelism at Databricks. He is a leading AI, database, and analytics influencer. He is most known for innovating the sports analytics industry by creating the Cubs and Dodgers analytics department, which eventually inspired a book and also a movie called Moneyball. And he travels around the world with McLaren's Formula One team. So, his data warehouse leadership includes president of the worldwide Oracle users group when they acquired MySQL, Java, and Peoplesoft. His laurels include Caltech's Alumni of the Decade, IBM's Data Science Celebrity, and the 2024 DataIQ's Top Influencer. He is also the author of the data intelligence platform for Dummies. The link is shared in the chat. I would also be sharing the same link once again at the end. So everyone will be having the Q&A at the end. So please keep your questions ready for Ari. With that, I formally welcome Ari Kaplan. Welcome, Ari. The stage is all yours. We are excited for your presentation.
Oh, thank you, Richard, as well. Let me go ahead and switch over to my deck. Yeah, so wanted to thank everyone for being part of here. I also understand some people might be joining us through the recording. And if so, welcome to you as well. Just find me on LinkedIn and feel free to ask any questions later as well, or follow me. I appreciate, Richard, that great welcome. I should say I had always wanted to visit India, and I finally had my chance a couple of months ago. I went to a couple different cities. One was to speak in Bengaluru at the Developer Summit, which was pretty large. And then I went ahead and went to Mumbai. That's me at Elephante Island. Had an incredible time. And then, of course, always something I'd wanted to do since I was a little child was visit New Delhi and nearby Agra and Taj Mahal. So I had a wonderful time. I really hope I have the opportunity to come back. It's like a trip of a lifetime. But today we're going to talk about GenAI on the modern data stack. And since this audience is largely software, I'll also have a good focus on the actual coding aspect of it as well. But really, the modern data stack is not your traditional. I'll get into it in a little bit, but not traditional, structured data with traditional rows and columns of like a data warehouse, but really more of a lake house. And I'll explain all about that. And then, of course, GenAI itself, whether it's large language models or even broader AI, how does that affect software development? How does that affect the data engineering aspect? How is it all architected? So those are some of the topics. And Richard already went through much of my background, but I should say it has been an honor to have been one of the pioneers, so to speak, in data and analytics. Top left is one of the most fun achievements, which is the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series for the first time after 108 years. And the owner had brought me in to create and lead their whole analytics department. So how do you even collect raw data going on transforming? And by the way, in India, the big parallel is cricket, of course, and similar types of data, the position of the fielders, the position of the ball, and the batsman. Using data and AI can help you identify strengths, weaknesses, and habits data intelligence platform, free ebook if you want to go ahead and download it. Talks way more in depth than I can in the next like 45 minutes or so. And then traveling around the world, helping race teams like McLaren Formula One, Mario Andretti, Robert McGuinness. Just a quick safe harbor statement that what you see now is what we have now, but use at your discretion. A lot of the opinions are of mine as well. So just one thing about Databricks, if you haven't heard of us, by the way, in India, we are growing incredibly fast. If anyone's interested, check out our careers page. But we've grown 400% in the last years. And our customers are growing faster than our number of employees and ability to support. But around the world, we now have 12,000 customers, really now over 2 billion in revenue, 4 billion in investment, one of the largest private, non-public companies out there. But where the interesting part is the inventor of what's called the Lakehouse technology, and now that's a common area where 74% of all companies have it, and one of the pioneers of generative AI. And the other point is that there's a lot of open source there. And by the way, there's somebody who's talking, if you can go on mute, but somebody who's the open source is one of the big pushes that when I joined Databricks, I realized just how huge it is. Something with tens of millions of downloads every single month, and open source just has a lot of value since you could see how different environments were created, and you as the community can help contribute to it. So it's really community sourced and you avoid vendor lock-in. But our founder story were the people who created or co-created Apache Spark, which took the world from the old big data Hadoop cluster into more open source, much easier, much to operate in and much easier to scale up. And then Delta Lake, which is open source that helps you combine the best of both worlds of the performance of data warehouse and the low cost of data lakes. And then MLflow, since we're talking about GenAI, that's an open source capability for data scientists to do experiments like predictive analytics, keep track of the experiments, operationalize it all. And now we have in GenAI, one of the large language models out there, here of ChatGPT and Llama, and we have a DBRX, which is highly performative, but open source out there as well. So it's part of the open community. And then last month, or 2 months ago now, a Unity catalog is on top of it all, which helps you tag and register and govern and have visibility, like lineage, into everything you're doing. So if you're a software developer and you want to have a better guideline into where your underlying data that you're doing your data frames in, Unity catalog was just open sourced. So that's a great benefit of the governance layer. And probably already are bought into this, but we see that the winners of every industry will be data and AI companies. And we have all different studies have shown if you start incorporating data and AI appropriately, in most cases, you're able to just get better insights that are more practical, and your company can make better decisions off of that and competitively have a good advantage. But now almost every company has their data and AI, so it's now like a race to be most efficient. And I just saw just last night, as I was preparing a bit for this, that Amazon CEO said that their LLMs for just their software development save them multiple thousands of years, not hours, but years of software development time. So automating the repetitive parts of software development so that folks like yourself, if you're in software development, don't necessarily need to do like that entry level work anymore in Python, R, Scala, SQL, things like that. A lot of that work will be automated and you'll be able to up focus on more complex type of work, which could be good, but it's already happening. It's companies are already really embracing certain aspects of it. And I'll go through a lot of that, but the very foundation is Lakehouse Foundation. And by the way, a little secret, even though I did the data intelligence platform for dummies, I'm now working on the Lakehouse platform for dummies. So expect that in probably a couple of months. But what is a Lakehouse? It's the new standard in the market, the underlying structure where you can do really any of your software development, and the underlying could be both structured data and unstructured. It could be backward looking of what happened, like data warehousing. I used to work for Oracle, would be ad hoc queries like list of sales, list of transactions, very structured data. And then the other paradigm, which came a little bit later, are the data lakes, which are more unstructured data, real-time streaming, documents, videos, and that's more predictive. What will be happening, things like predictive analytics, classification, video analysis, as well as prescriptive analytics, not just what will happen, but what action should our business take, and even to some extent, automating some parts of the decision making, like automatically approve a driver's license or automatically reject, if you're looking through a million forms for a signature, automatically reject it if it does not detect a signature. But these were two very, you can see the line, very different software. Data Lake was unstructured data filed in volumes and files, and data warehousing are, if you've heard of the term ACID transaction, like very controlled, discrete transactions, and they didn't mesh. So the Lakehouse has put this all in one format, so you can do SQL queries against everything. You can write Python code, and your data could be partly in like a structured, partly in unstructured. And the real value is if you've ever done a data science or AI, is the more features or variables you have, the better your insights are oftentimes. If that new data has value, it will be a better prediction. And multimodal is a term that talks about different types of data. So text is the next logical one. You have text fields. How do you manage that? But then how do you understand the context of that information? So for example, in this case, if you're dealing with like the human body or healthcare, it will understand that there are words, and this is where LLM gets started, but understand the context of the word. Like the word viral in healthcare, something negative, but the word viral on social media, if your post goes viral, that's a good thing. So if you just use a generative AI, a model that's trained on the whole world, the word viral, it's not as accurate as if you custom build or custom fine tune a model and give it hints on your language that viral is good or bad. So words have different meanings based on your data. And that's where the data intelligence platform, of course, I worked for Databricks, so I speak mostly about ours. We're the ones that created this environment, but there's a lot out there. But the bottom line is training GenAI on your own data makes it more accurate for you. So that's word textual data. Then geospatial understands the location of information. But what makes AI a bit different is in data warehousing, it would just be a repository of where, for example, people made a purchase. But with AI, you can more intelligently see where did these purchases have a challenge, meaning there was not enough stock. So you need to resupply stores, or there might be an overabundance of like uh, shares of supplies and things like that. So you may have to reduce your price. So where are your over and under? Like I've worked with a hospital system that would have their ambulances pre-located throughout the city, anticipating where people might get sick or injured outside a cricket game, for example, or outside a bar, outside a college during the weekend, so that they'd be the closest to the people. So that's using AI. Time series is another challenge, using historical data to make forecasts based on patterns of numbers. And you can see the numbers go up and down. Like that could be days of the week or hours in the day. Like right now, it's early morning here in the States, but later in India. So like the time of work or software development could be going up here if there's support around the world. And throughout the day in the middle of the night, it goes down. And you don't want to blend the information. You want to see this pattern, look for outliers. So that's called time series analysis. And then visual AI, like looking and classifying, is this an actual dog or is this a muffin that you eat? But all of this is where businesses are using AI. And then Gen AI is also used for consumers, like making new images or videos. But where companies right now are really focused on is how can I use Gen AI to make a chatbot, for example. And I'll be kind of going through examples and showing you code in there. So one reason where the Lakehouse comes in extra helpful is that there's about 8 or 9 or 10 different vendors that you typically have to patch together to orchestrate everything to make a data and AI environment. So you have to patch together like one machine learning environment, like maybe you're using Orange or Python completely. The data lake, the data warehouse. How do you govern it all? Gen AI is a whole nother topic. How can you use either open source LLMs or maybe even generate your own? How do you govern it all? Keep track of what the prompts are? How do you govern your AI so it doesn't hallucinate or even detecting what hallucinations are? How do you manage streaming data like social media? How do you orchestrate it all? Maybe you want to do traditional AI intelligence. And problems with that is your data gets siloed. So you have different patches of data that could make your coding hard, JavaScript, Python, whatever it is. You have to accommodate different sources and merge data frames together. Gets a bit complicated. You have to govern it all. How do you merge the data if you don't know like what columns join up? And then the other challenge is sometimes if you have data siloed in different environments, you have to make a copy. So copy something from your warehouse environment over to a different environment. Before long, you have duplicate copies of data. If it's large data, you need it to scale to trillions of records. And that could be very costly to duplicate compute and storage. So that makes it high cost. The data privacy, if you have 8 different platforms, you may have 8 different logins. If you have 8 different audit trails, it's just a challenge to control it all consistently. And then dependent on highly technical staff. And I know you like to be dependent upon, that is good for your job, but sometimes you become, a bottleneck and you want to be working you want the high technical staff to work on highly important work and either automate the rest or have other staff that can do the less highly technical work. So that overall slows down productivity when you get like highly scaled environments. So that's the Lakehouse. And then 2 years ago, roughly, GenAI came out. And so a Lakehouse adding on GenAI becomes a data intelligence platform. So about a year and a half ago, Databricks came up with a term, not to own the term, but we want the whole world to start using this terminology, as many vendors as possible. And the data intelligence platform basically brings more intelligence to your software development. It brings more intelligence to your environment, so AI can immediately create a cluster and scale up or scale down a cluster within certain guardrails automatically. It helps you as a software developer find where your data assets are. So if you use one word like a sale, like somebody purchased something, and another person uses the word purchase or acquire or buy, that probably means the same thing. And if you're just using SQL, you have to put in all of those where clause conditions, and you have to understand by hand what your data is. But now with GenAI, if you apply GenAI to your data assets, you could search information more intelligently. Your program software development can find the right data at the right time. So looking at an architecture, this is for AI. You want to be able to have it support the actual data on the bottom. So you want some open data lake to store your unstructured. You want a structured lakehouse. You want to govern it. And then you want to apply intelligence to it. And for GenAI, I'll go through a little bit. You have entire models that already exist, like ChatGPT, Llama, and so on. And you want to potentially also inject your own data called fine tuning, or just small amounts of data called RAG, retrieval augmented generation. And how do you govern it all? Something called MLOps, software ops, and now LLMOps. So, this is infusing intelligence at every single layer. Text to SQL, you'll be able to see, in addition to writing SQL, you could say, show me all the values, or sorted by most to first, or join these two tables. You could just use English or Hindi or any language really to write what you want. You don't have to be a programmer, and most of the time it will figure out what you want to get. And if it doesn't figure it out, you can guide it, and then it learns from everyone else doing prompts and giving it a thumbs up, a thumbs down, typing in what's wrong with the SQL. And over time, it just gets smarter and more intelligent and learning. So the bottom line, you want for your software development to be based on good data, which leads to good software development and good AI. Unity catalog, again, it's open source now, but when I hear governance, a lot of people just think of access control. People look at, governance is just one more thing to keep track of, but that's true. That's very important to make sure people have the right insert, update, delete, or even viewing of the right data. But you also, from helping you software develop, understand the lineage. So from the raw data, how is that data being merged? What data frames are using it? What notebooks are using it? What dashboards are using it? What GenAI models are using it? What traditional machine learning models are using it? So lineage is part of your governance. That is extremely helpful. Helps you understand how your GenAI is being run. Discovery, finding your assets, sharing your data, auditing what happened, monitoring what happened, even time travel. So you could say, I want to look at my data as of 1 week ago, or I want to look at my data as of immediate, or as of a year ago. So you can recreate time travel through this as well. So this is just like a quick image of data lineage. You could see from the source where the data is, how the data is being merged from left to right. It's kind of like an entity relationship diagram. So what's upstream and downstream? If you change data, what other tables or objects, tables, notebooks, views, materialized views are affected by this? And in terms of data privacy, you want to, there are concepts of clean rooms even, where different companies can share data, or within your own data, you may want to hide your credit card or email potentially, and you don't want the software to break. So you could encrypt certain fields, and only whoever has the master can relate this hexadecimal format with the actual email. So that is part of this whole data privacy effect. So you could actually share this outward and they won't know the actual email. They'll just have the code for it. And unless they have access, they can't translate it to actual. And then in terms of monitoring, Lakehouse monitoring is an example to see, one of the challenges is price getting out of control. You write a SQL query and it ends up costing $1,000. You didn't realize that SQL query was that expensive until after the fact. But you can now do monitoring and even putting guardrails. So if you run a query or try to create a new LLM, it won't, it'll warn you, or it'll limit you, or you can make it open if you want. But who's doing what assets are being used, and you can even see what schemas and tables are being unused, potentially to delete it. So GenAI, I know this audience is a lot of software development. I don't know how much you know about GenAI yet. A lot of software developers want to take that leap, career advancement into GenAI. But here are the four levels of maturity. The first one, hopefully you're already doing prompt engineering. If you've never tried it, go to ChatGPT. One of the websites I personally use is it's YOU.com. It just allows you to freely try out different large language models, but that's prompt engineering. You give it a question, like who are famous people from India, and it gives you some text response. The main downside with that is you are relying on ChatGPT, you're relying on OpenAI. Your prompts get sent to another company like Microsoft or what have you. And if you inject your own data, that also gets sent out to a third party. That may be okay for some customers of yours, but others you cannot send that type of information. Retrieval augmented generation is where you give it like some custom enterprise data, like here's a data frame, and I'll show a quick demo of that. Give me some insights from there. Fine tuning is where you take an existing, potentially open source model, and you add a bunch of data sets or domains to it. So it's the actual process of like a third party open source LLM, but it's more tuned to your data set. And then pre-training is where some companies are already going. It's where you can make an entire new LLM completely from scratch, like your own ChatGPT, but fully based on your data. It could be trained on trillions of records, and that's the most accurate, so to speak. And then the world itself, like our DBRX, is based on what's called a mixture of experts. So you make one smaller model that might be good on detecting the weather, and another smaller model that might be good on detecting traffic in each city, and another model that might be good at analyzing social media, how happy or angry people are. And then you merge and chain up those models for the best effect. And this is recorded, so you can always go back and read this in more definition, but the more you go along the journey, the more resource intensive it is to compute, but the more control and generally the better accuracy that you get. And then one cool thing with Databricks is if you build like a RAG chatbot on our platform, you have the ability to detect how many people are using it. What are the prompts that are being used? This is a video video game manufacturer, and they look at toxicity. Are people saying bad words or putting up bad, inappropriate photographs as they play the game? And this could detect it in real time and kick the player out or censor them. But you can keep track of everything. So let me start with a demo. And if you haven't been to a playground, like U.com is an example playground. I know some companies have their own playground. This is ours. It is, showing you what LLMs could be used for. You could use it for sentiment analysis, like, is this text description positive or negative? You could, from like a code perspective, I just did an instruct to take this text and try to extract words of it into JSON format. So right now it did that. And not only did it write the JSON that you could copy and paste somewhere, but it explained exactly what I've done. So if you are listening and you're just beginning, like this is like the first step. You could do anything like that. And it explains what you've done. Now, I've seen that there's, based on this text, 3 properties: name, color, and taste. Let me know if you'd like to structure it in any other way. So that's like one example. Let me go back in. You can upload a couple documents, like some Word docs, and ask questions. You can upload a Shakespeare book and say, what did Shakespeare mean when he said to be or not to be? Or you can summarize documents, or you can ask any questions. Like, and by the way, before I start, you can select which model you want. And actually, you can go ahead and make comparisons. So I'm going to do one model of Meta, one of DBRX, and one of Mixtral, and then say, who are famous people from India? And by the way, if you noticed, I had it sync the prompts. So first of all, you could see the one on the left is outputting it a bit slower. The Meta Llama, DBRX, Mixtral, and then at the end you could see DBRX, there's something called tokens. That's generally how it slices up data, not exactly in words, but like chunks of words called tokens. And the more tokens it takes, oftentimes the more cost it is. So the Databricks, in this case, this is the first time I did this query. I didn't know what would be faster, but DBRX is faster. You have to use your own brain to evaluate which style that you like. But it also had the fewest tokens. Then again, Meta just made a list, and the others listed the player and gave some wording. So that's cool. Then you can do things like add a system prompt, like talk in a rap music style. See how that works. Save a prompt, and then who are famous people from India? I think I did no, yeah. So it applied everywhere. So if you like rap music, the output is now, yo, listen up, let me share a tale about famous Indians who made their mark and prevail. So it's kind of funny, but that's kind of cute. But you could do system prompts that are actually beneficial to your business. Like changing something called the temperature and top P, top K. Maybe you can limit it to 500 tokens, or I want to make it a little bit longer. Add parameters. I'm going to change that talk in pirate style. Who are famous people from India? Now it's like a pirate. Are you landlubbers looking for famous folks from India? But you could see like the sentiment could make it more like what do you call it, creative, or more like very specific. So that's like the AI playground. Very helpful for comparing, contrasting, trying out different things. And now coding assistant. So one other thing you might have seen, copilots, like GitHub has a copilot, but we have, as part and parcel of the whole platform, an ability to do like code development, not just code development, but the entire platform. So one example, if you haven't seen our platform, there's things called workspaces where you put all of your data and everything. And there are things for SQL software developers, data engineers, machine learning. But one of them, as a software developer, as a database administrator, you have objects, data frames, other data sources that you want to load in. One of these is movies. So you have everything in here, like the ability to find the lineage, like where does this table have associated workflows, notebooks, what queries are querying this data source, or you can look at the sample data. And these are movies with different types of data. How many votes did it get for the Oscars? What the score was, everything like that. So I'm going to take this and show you how you can use software to help you develop. So you've seen the notebook that I have, and you've seen this is the top 1,000 movies out there. So what I'm going to first do, by the way, there's a lot I can talk is we have something called serverless, where it's just the ability, and you saw I hit the run button and it was instant, to the ability to start up, for example, a SQL warehouse or a Lakehouse environment, and starting to do business was near instant. And then in the past, if you've ever been like a Hadoop user, to create and start up a cluster, like could take a long time, very frustrating. So here I have it started up. I have the volume that we saw of the data of the top 1,000. And here's where data intelligence helps the software development platform. In this data, if you've ever done like data management, a lot of your time is on cleaning data. And this data came in what we call dirty. The title of the movie, if you see, has a 1 dot space in front of it. And it also has the year as part of the movie. So in other words, the field title really has 3 pieces of information. The title of the movie doesn't, like the number 1 is not actually the title. So you have to clean up the data, and you have a choice to hand write the code or to just use an English-like prompt to help you with it. So, you could go ahead and extract the release date and title and make new fields as part of it. Just by saying, make a new column, take the first column and make a release date out of it. I had this open prematurely. So now you could see automatically it understood anything in a parentheses is the date field. And this was automatically generated. This is pretty, for you, it might be easy. For me, it's pretty complicated. I have to brush up on my reg expressions. But the software automatically knew to do that. And it knows to extract the date and title. And so now you can just ask in English, in this case, this little button here is your assistant. You open up the assistant and you can really ask any question. Saving time, you know, imagine I typed this, I just copied and pasted, but typing in the prompt, there is a column with votes that looks like this. Votes, gross money, write a function to extract the gross revenue and votes from the info column. So you could see this info column has like a bunch of data separated by a pipe and colons. And I just asked a question, write me code that will extract it. And it not only wrote the code for me, but it's now giving me like some documentation. If I like that, I say replace that the cell. I don't know if you noticed it now added this. Now I can run it. And as you see, it now has new columns for gross and votes. So it worked, and I didn't write any coding. I just wrote what I want it to do. I can keep going on and, you know, write a function to count the number of stars. Or I can write another prompt. Do it down here again. Please extract the director from this cast column. Who are the director? Who are the stars? And by the time it's taking me to talk, it's almost done. It did that. And as soon as it's done explaining, I can copy it. I can push it into the next paragraph, and now it'll work. And so, you know, you get the idea. You can keep improving the all of the code. You could change data types, diagnose errors. One other fun thing is just to show there's an error. I did the simplest error in the code. I did two incompatible variable types, an integer and a string. And then I'll go 5 more minutes, open it up for questions. But all you could do is, well, first of all, it gave the answer, or I could just type in /fix. And it says to fix the error, make sure these are both the same data types. I do the replace the active cell and run it again, and now it works. So, you know, then once you're done, you could save the new table to Unity Catalog. And then you can, once you have that, you could do now semantic searches. Now I have a new table. So I could say, you know, for example, is there a table I can use to find a director that really brings in the big bucks? And it worked. It showed the table movies is the most likely table to contain this information. And what's really wild is it knew the word director was not the title of a column, but it was the contents of a column. And bringing in the big bucks is in English like a slang for meaning who makes a lot of money. And the word money is related to the word revenue. The word bucks is slang term for dollars. So for me, this is like the most amazing thing. I'm like in awe of all of this. I didn't type in what, you know, select star from movies where revenue, you know, is greater than $1 million. I just typed in my own language the word big bucks, and it knew that that was related to revenue. and director, and it knew that that was a value in a column, and it came up with movies. Now I don't have many other choices, but you could see this, like this symbol here. The more that you run queries, this is just me in my own environment starting today, but the more people that run queries and start using it, it intelligently kind of upvotes what objects are more usable and or more appropriate. So that's pretty cool. You could do things like making your own dashboard. So I made my own table that you could see here. And then from within the product, you could just drag and drop. And I just picked two different columns that I want. Create a chart, pitch type distribution. And it'll go ahead and render it. Spin rate, X and Y axes, pretty cool. And then the ultimate is when you have a data set and you want to quickly make like a democratize, so you or non-technical people can ask questions about the data. So once you've made the data, you can make what's called the Genie Space. So I can make a new Genie Space, call it Incubite questions and answers, make a description, Ari's webinar Q&A, pick what compute you want. I'll just make my own serverless. Then I can go ahead and pick like what schema I want, what tables I want. I don't want my information schema. I want like statcast data. And then you can feed it certain questions. Who throws the most pitches at the fastest velocity? So that could be like sample questions, and then I can go ahead and save it. If I had a transcript, after this webinar, it would know everything I said. And then you can ask questions based on the information that I had. So that's all you need to do today. 2 years ago, to be able to take data and make like an LLM type of environment would be mind-boggling. So now I created my own Genie Space. These are prompts that I typed in. I could just pick one. Always the default is explain the data set. And what's interesting is, I made it too simple. It said there's only one table. Next time I can make it more complex. This table contains information about each pitch in a baseball game. I did not write this. AI looked at my table and realized this is a baseball game. I have no idea how it knew to do that. I don't think the word baseball was ever included, but it figured it out based on what it knows of the world. Batter and catcher. The word catcher, I can assure you, is not part of my data set, but it figured it out. And this is a really good explanation. I love this explanation, so I'm going to upvote this answer. And over time, the more your business users or you as a software developer gives a thumbs up or thumbs down. And if you gave it a thumbs down, you could type in a better description. It just makes everything more intelligent. So what is the average start speed and spin rate for each pitch type? Which pitcher threw the most average start speed? You can ask any question. So you saw being able to use a data intelligence platform to write and debug code in your own notebooks is incredible. The ability to tag and make AI information is incredible. The ability to do searches in your native language. What table contains baseball information. And by the way, this just told me which pitcher threw with the hardest velocity. And I didn't even I just asked what pitcher, and it just, by being nice, included the start speed, kind of figuring out what I wanted to ask. And over time, that Genie Space gets better and better. So what table contains baseball information? So I have tables here. I have marketplace, things I wasn't actually aware of. I guess these are some of our partners. And that's it. So let me go back and kind of end it there. Please follow me on LinkedIn. I love connecting. I give information like this out. I'll be giving out more videos, and follow me along. But with that, oh fun, I'm signed out. Let me pause and stop sharing my screen and see if there's any questions. And Richard, I don't know if there's anything with questions in there. Oh, great. So Karan said, did I get to meet Lando, Zach, Andreas? Okay, so yes, yes, and yes. So not only did I meet Lando and Daniel and Ricardo, but I became good friends with them. And when I say I led a team of people that wrote like a fantasy Formula One, where it used AI and it let the general population say, I want to switch tires out on, I predict that Lando's going to switch tires out on lap 30. I predict it's not going to rain. I want to start with soft tires or hard tires, and it will, after the race, see which users made the best predictions. And at the end, Lando and Daniel gave an award, but that was huge. Like they tweeted it out, Instagrammed it out, and it went to tens of millions of people. But yeah, I would be part of race strategy. We developed a predictive model to see how much it would rain to a 5-minute increment, better than what they had before. So like in Monaco, where it was raining, they were able to keep the car out many more laps, which helped them more. But so many fun stories that we have. And then Databricks, yeah, there are ways that you could start. I don't recall all the details, but like go to Databricks. Again, I don't know the details, but it could be like for 2 weeks or some limited amount you try. And then what's cool is that then you upgrade to what's called pay as you go. So many people, like, you don't need to talk to a sales rep. If you don't use it for 6 months, you pay nothing. If you use it for a little bit of compute, you pay a little bit. But then if you're a major company, over time, if you want to buy something in bulk, then you get what's called a commit. But yeah, you should be able to start up for free. And then Meet said, as a company, should we go to AI straight, or BI data warehousing comes first? And it really depends, but I would say, first, focus on getting your data in line, since most AI is going to be based on the data that the company has, and you really need to get that foundation of data first. Depending, if you want to go straight to AI, the cases where you'd want to go straight to AI is if you have a bunch of documents, presentations, emails, and you want to enable your company, your employees to search through it, then AI is a great way to leapfrog it. Like I've also worked with companies. If you use Slack, they can use GenAI to make a chatbot on all of their Slack. So you can like I search in Slack for like a key concept. Tell me about Lakehouse, and it's frustrating to find out what conversations had it. But if you add AI to Slack, or if you have Salesforce or some call center, AI is a good way to just leapfrog and ask questions about that unstructured data. But most companies start off with a database of some sort and then work their way up to AI. And Karan, thank you for that, putting that link in Community Edition. Let's use it for free with a single node cluster with a little bit of usage limit. So thank you for that link. And then, yeah, given how fast AI is evolving. And that's the other fun part is like DBRX, all these models. That's why it's great to have a playground. Is a month from now, I'm just guessing, there will be a new model. And it looks like Nikhil has a hand up.
Hey, Ari. Morning. A quick one on how can we address the gray area where the data privacy is still a concern working with LLM models. I see there are a lot of concerns in terms of working with LLM because our data goes out. If you have a PII sitting in your data, that goes out. That definitely is not a great way to work with.
Yeah, and that's one of the biggest, I guess, ways that LLMs are not being implemented is you have private information. Healthcare, financial are like the big industries. So the way you do that is either you don't do anything and you just don't make an LLM, but you still will need people that know the data to be able to identify and govern what data can be included in the chatbot, for example, and what data has to be excluded. So if you're not careful, then number one, yeah, private data gets out. If you're not careful, you may protect private data at the source, but then when you add like a predictive analytics, sometimes it gets blended back in. So that's where like Unity Catalog, which again is now open source, is a great way, like that lineage, to make sure any private information is either abstracted, like you saw with that hexadecimal, or like completely blocked. So if they ask questions about social security or medical information, it'll just say, I don't have, or I can't provide that. So that's what data lineage helps you monitor it. And then, there are ways to mask data with the Unity catalog. And then the ultimate level is the concept of a clean room. And the clean room will say, Incubite, we trust you and you can have all the data, but this other company that is a partner, we can't give you that data unless you pay for it or unless you sign a non-disclosure agreement. So that's the clean room concept where you can share data and guarantee you mask the data. But you're exactly right. As you do Gen AI, you have to be very, very careful to make sure private data doesn't get leaked as it gets merged around. So thanks for that. And then oh, great. He's a former colleague, I see, from Abhishek. And then one other question, which is great question, which is from Meet. I hope Databricks, and really I'd say everything in general, you could lump in Copilots from GitHub and other companies. Like a lot of companies are doing similar AI for software development. So it's even a bigger question is how replaceable are data engineers, BI engineers, what strategy to apply a maximum as a technical person. So when I worked for Oracle about 20 years ago, they came out with an automated database administrator. And everyone asked the same question, will I be replaced? And long term, 20 years later, the answer is no. There are still DBAs. There's still you need the understanding to do special cases and understand where large workloads and small workloads change. But that data engineering, yeah, that part is getting automated. Like that concept of serverless, we have intelligence to throttle up and down servers automatically, so you're not paying for like downtime. But I would say that like to the level of getting like a bachelor degree maybe today, and like maybe your first year software is being automated. But I think for at least the next 5 or 10 years, the more advanced coding, people who know data and know more advanced code, that is really hard to automate. To put the guardrails around everything, like we were talking about private information, really hard to automate. So I think things are going to be shifting from, like just making basic data pipelines, I think will be automated. So everyone will, hopefully that's boring for you. So you'll be more complex pipelines or setting up guardrails or even having math and probability, I think will be a good skill set, since it's not just making predictions, it's understanding what is the accuracy of the prediction, trying different variables, trying different accuracies. When is something good enough? Understanding the data and the business to say there's a whole new data set we should be looking at. That's where humans will still be extremely helpful for the next 5 or 10 years. And the strategy to employ AI at the maximum, and that's like, combination. And by the way, I'm fine to keep going a little bit of overtime, if that's okay. The strategy is, think of the use cases that there's intentional strategy, which is we want, most companies are looking at LLMs for making their employees more intelligent. So like at Databricks, we have AI attached to our Salesforce. So I'm not a Salesforce expert, and I do know SQL really well, but I don't know all the tables. But it helps me ask questions like, which event did I talk at that ended up a year later with those customers spending the most money? Or what were, how many downloads did my made it go unfocused, did my book have in the last month? That's where it's intentional. Then you have innovation, where you can use really anything, data, AI, unintentionally. You could experiment and innovate around and just have like extra time set aside to come up with new ideas or maybe change the way your business is doing. So you have intentional strategy and also have some creativity room in there for innovation is always good. So you're welcome. Great insights. Thank you. Let's see. And then people have been answering some of the questions as well. One question, which open source LLM deployed? And there's a bunch back and forth. So in general, there's 2 data concerns. One is if you inject or add data like a RAG, like you could say, I have this data set of 1 million sales of our cookies. What were the total sales by state? You are uploading that data to a third-party company. And you just have to trust them that they'll either delete the data when you're done or never get hacked or never sell it to somebody, but you're trusting third party. And with private information, legally, you actually can't do that. You legally can't send, at least in America, the medical information out to a third party unless you have like very tight agreements. So sending data to a third party is, you have to be careful. And then the questions that you ask, you have to be careful. And even if it's all internal, you still have to be careful. So for example, if you have your salary database, what does everyone at Databricks make? I don't want somebody to ask, what is Ari's salary? Or show me all employees at my level that make more money than me. HR doesn't want the salary to come out. So even if you control everything, you still have to have somebody safeguard what data could be queried by whom. And everyone's saying connect LinkedIn. Hope everyone connects with everyone there. But I see I've gone 8 minutes. I'll spend another 2 minutes seeing if there's one more question, and then we could wrap it up. Richard, any final thoughts that you put in? One more plug on Incubite.
Nothing else, Ari. It was like an interesting session, and you kind of gave us a brief introduction about what data intelligence platform's capability is and how it is going to help data engineers, BI engineers, anyone who is working on SQL to get their work done much faster. So having a Copilot which can really get the queries done and explore the data. Most of our time usually goes in exploring the data, where the data is, or n number of tables. We just have to go through them to identify its relevant data somewhere. So Databricks intelligence platform is literally a complete search engine of itself where I can just query it and I could find all the relevant the data sets to it. That was the insight from this. So I think we are almost end. So thank you everyone. And thank you, Ari, for this wonderful session and for indulging us with such a brief explanation about the platform. Thank you all for spending time with us today, and thank you to all who have joined us today. For anyone who missed any part of the event, please do not worry, the recording will be available on our YouTube channel. We will share the link through our social media handles, so be sure to look out for that. Also, folks, we in Incubite are hiring too. So if you are a lover of clean code and passionate about crafting high quality software, then please do look us up. And please apply for our positions on Cut Short or send us an email out at careers@incubite.com. So with that, thank you, everyone. Thanks a lot, Ari.
Thank
It
you.
was great for having
Appreciate
you.
it. All right, see you.